Good morning, everyone. Today is Friday, April 30th, 2021. This is our 2021-2022 corporate fund budget. Our first one on the list is clerk and elections with Clerk Senya. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. This was a learning experience. I know I sat up at the table and watched you all do, the budget hearings in the past, but when you dig deep into it, you learn a lot. The mayor has his hand up. I don't know.
Okay, I'm sorry, this is your time to
Okay.
present. I'm going to unmute the mayor.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to let you know, also, Ms. Sinia, Mariana is going to be putting the budget online. So if you guys want to do that, just better for the council, they can actually look at it on the screen. So if you want to do that, Mariana can put it up.
Oh, we haven't done it on any other ones. Now we need to move on.
And also, I just want to let you know at 11 o'clock, I have a meeting with Dua. They're talking about rates. So I have to log off at 11 to call into that meeting, just in case. If you guys need anything, let me know after. But I'll be here till 11.
Thank you. I think we'll get done early. I'm hoping. Okay, go on, Madam Clerk.
Okay, I'm doing I have two different budgets. The first one I'm going to go through is the clerks, and there's not too many line items, so I'll do that quickly. For salary elect, we don't have any. That's up to the local compensation commission to do that every odd year. I think they meet to determine that and bring it forward to the council. The one is the only one I think I would have control over would be our deputy, which in our office, I think most of you have been in here, and that's a very valuable, and I could go into my other time as in my corporate entity as far as giving evaluations and how raises were done there, which I like them. As far as merit awards, and we would definitely fall under that for this, where employees are ranked and stuff like that. But I think that's up, and she deserves a good raise, put it that way. And then the other salaries are determined by the contracts. So in that case, I really don't have control over that. That would be in negotiations. I do think that one of ours, which is a clerk one, does a lot more, has a lot more, that position has a lot, it's not the person, it's the position, has a lot more responsibility than clerical one. So maybe that can be addressed during contract negotiations as well. The next item on our agenda is overtime. I raised it up some this year because we are over budget, and I want to say that's predominantly due to Zoom meetings. Georgianne, we have to have an extra person come in. We've had more meetings. So I've increased that budget over last year. The next one is supplies. A lot of that was PPE equipment. You got a new clerk and she needed new business cards. And I guess the clerk had just had, they had just ordered it for the old one. So that, put us a little bit over budget. Not bad. Overall, we're doing pretty good. And then the only other main thing on our budget is contractual services, which we are responsible for Municode, which publishes all of our ordinances online, maintains all that electronic filing. We have to pay for the codification of those ordinances, and then our our BS&A maintenance agreements, that falls under that, our animal licenses. Yeah, Robert's got his. You do still have a paper one in addition to doing
that was our office. That was the office, because this office, Brock and Bergeld, helped draft it. It's like
okay, please don't. I'm sorry. Point of order. Sorry. Please don't interrupt Madam Clerk while she's presenting. Let her present in her entirety.
Okay, while I'm at the clerk's office, there's just two other things that I would like to mention. I don't know if any of you have been back in our copy room, but we have this huge Rolodex because we are still required by state law to maintain all of the master card files for the registered voters, which we have 44,000, approximately 44,000 registered voters. That's on the blink. That one's at least 25 years old. Okay, So for next year's budget, we're trying to be proactive. For next year's budget, I'm gonna go, it's not working right now. It's not moving, so we have to manually crank it. I don't know how much they are, maybe $30,000. So I think we can get through this next year because I'm gonna have it fixed. It's an antique, guys. We had somebody come out and look at it, and they do have a panel for that will make it work. But I'd like be proactive, make you aware. I'd like to add that next year into the capital outlay. And then, oh, I did mention, okay, this is a big thing for the clerk's office. You know, I've been in here, I think this is my 4th year. I would like, and Councilman Abdahak mentioned it, I would like to investigate imaging all of our files. I think it would be more productive. You know that many of you have asked for files. We may have to go down to it's going to be a huge task. We don't have any room in our cabinets here to even file anymore, and we have piles of filing to do. That eventually, Kathy can tell you that, you know, you have to clean up these files, put them downstairs, re-index everything. And as the official record keeper for the city, we need to have that so that when somebody comes to us, we don't spend hours or days looking for, you know, particular files. How to go about that, I don't know, but we can do that. I mean, I belong to a couple different clerks associations, and I can find out how they did their files. So that's it for the clerk's budget. Kath, did you have anything that I forgot about the clerk's budget?
No, not at all. You think you covered it good. Thank you.
Okay. And then the next on the agenda, we have also the elections. I have a little bit more here on the elections, okay? Because I do want to go through, let me go through the cycle. There's a four-year cycle for elections. This past year, 2020, was the presidential. So we have the presidential primary in March. Then, of course, you have a primary in August and the general election in November. For the presidential primary, why we probably, and I don't know because I didn't do that budget for that past year, that we budget for it, but we are reimbursed for the presidential primary, the March primary. But then we have the local, I'm sorry, the primary in August and the, you know, the general. You know, this past year, which I think we did pretty darn good as far as the budget goes, just the part-time was way, well, not over, but it was over because of all the absentee ballots. You know, 4 years ago, we only had 5,000. This year, we had 15,000 that we processed. We sent out 16,000 absentee ballots. And it's a very detailed job, and you have to do it in order to get, you know, to do it right. The second year of that 4-year cycle, which would be this year, is a local. So you only have the primary and the general election, but we, the locals, incur additional expense for that because Wayne County doesn't have one. So we have to pay for the Wayne County canvas. It's not a lot, but we do incur that expense. There is a special election this year. You know, this is next Tuesday, just for the schools. That's fully reimbursable. We will, we are taking item by item. The only thing that's not reimbursable is our daily salary. Overtime is reimbursable. All the staff in the back, all the supplies, all the poll workers. We are doing hazard pay. The election commission meets prior to each election, and we did agree to pay for election hazard pay this year, or for this election. And then on the third one, which would be next year, is your state or gubernatorial election. So we will have the primary and the general election on that one. And then on the fourth year, you have another, it's just a local election. And the only way, if you were, if the city wanted to save money in the budget, the only way to save it on that fourth year would to be only have the election 1 year like Dearborn does. I'm sure you're aware that all of their council members' terms are up at the same year. That's the only way that we could eliminate or save in the budget. Just wanted to throw that out there. That would require, I think, a charter amendment, but just to let you know, okay, that that is a way that we could save a little bit of money. Okay, so let's go through this real quick. You guys have seen it. The activity, you know, we were over on part-time. That's predominantly for the hazard pay, for the extra time that it took to process all the absentee ballots. Otherwise, I did up that. I think I kept the same for the overtime because we don't think we'll have, it's only a local, so we won't have the overtime that we had for the last time. Materials and supplies, I kept it the same, which is 20,000. I increased contractual services a little bit. And I upped mileage a little bit. It's not a big budget, you guys. I did, for capital outlay, it was higher last year because we bought the ICC scanner, which is a high-speed scanner for the absentee ballot board, which worked phenomenally for the November. We would have been there for 2 days if we had to put each one of those through. You guys will have to come down and see it or something. It's phenomenal. I did keep 10,000 in there because the laptops that are used at every precinct, while they're not used but 2 or 3 times a year, they were purchased in 2013. And once again, we're trying to be proactive and have that money in the capital outlay to see when and if we need to replace those laptops. That's just one of the things. Otherwise, I think as far as capital outlay, we're pretty good for the elections. The tabulators are okay. And then of course, we just got the high-speed scanner. Let me see my notes now, those. I am proud to say that I did apply last year for a grant that we did receive. It was between $27,000 and $28,000. So that will offset some of the overage that's in the last year's budget. I briefly talked to Comptroller Jawad, and he was unaware of this, and I have to touch base with him actually going there. The money for that has been received by the city, and I don't know the comptroller what they have to do, but it's not been put, it's still sitting in revenues. So somehow it has to get to our account. And we're going to talk about that, right, Comptroller Jawad, just so that you guys know that we did receive that, and that will help offset some of the overage in our last year's budget. But I did say that one. I talked to you about okay, looking forward to this coming year budget, we do have to I want to thank Parks and Recreation for working with us. But going forward, we are going to have to relocate the Canfield precincts. Okay. So that's going to be a big, that's going to be expense. Because I understand that there's, and maybe Parks and Rec can chime into that. That's going to be, they have activities there. They agreed to do it this year for us because we're still under COVID, and it's hard to, it's just hard to maintain business as usual. And then St. John the Baptist, which is part of the Westwood School in that area, in those precincts, that the building has closed. The father that is still maintaining, it hasn't been sold yet. He said we should be good this year, but we do have to do a different location. We think we should be able to use Robichaud for that because they should have enough room. We have one precinct there, but it's an expense. It's postcards, it's notifying all of your voters. So just so that you know that. And then moving forward again, about 4 or 5 years ago, Catherine, I'm not quite sure, there was, the city purchased all the new tabulators that are used at the 27 precincts. Part of that, when the purchase was made, and I just found this out, the county maintained the maintenance agreement for that. After 5 years, the local municipalities, that maintenance agreement's going to be transferred to the local municipalities. So the county couldn't tell me for sure what date. They didn't think it was part of this maintenance year or this budget year. So, but I just wanted to throw that out there that that will be an added expense to the city's budget, the election budget moving forward. So when it comes to grants, I know we have a grant writer now. If there was anything, and I will move this forward, I don't know if we can find something for that capital outlay purchase as well as for the election purchase of the laptop. I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Councilman Muscat, go ahead, please.
First thing, the tabulating machines, when we hook up to the internet to send out, we always have poor, I don't know, is it the machines themselves, or is it the buildings we're in, or what can we do to help that process out? That's question number one. And then I'll have another one after you answer that.
Okay, I know that, I think, Ray, the election that you worked, I think and Kathy, correct me, there's a modem right there on the tabulator.
Yes.
And I think it was with the internet company at the time, wasn't it, Kath? And Dominion had solved that problem, whatever. They went through and upgraded or did whatever. Go ahead, Kath.
Yeah, what happened was,
It was in August.
a building problem. A lot of these buildings are, old school buildings. They, the internet's not top notch, but we do have modems on there. But there was one particular election, the one that you worked, Ray, where actually that was a countywide systemic problem because there was a problem with the actual internet service. In the last election we had in November, we did not have those issues.
Okay. Second question to Clerk Sienna. You mentioned that large Rolodex. It doesn't work anymore. Has anyone looked at it to try to fix it?
Yes,
who did?
I did have somebody, they had to bring somebody, well, not just for us, but because it is an antique, they brought somebody out and he did diagnose it. He had to look for an actual panel that runs it. It's a touch screen. And I think just from the years of use, but he did find one. So they gave us a price. I just haven't got him. So he can fix it. Okay,
so what it is, it's an electronic issue, software issue, not a mechanical issue.
No, I think it's the pan, it's just the touch screen to have it roll.
Okay, because I was going to suggest that fixing machines is what I did for a living, and I was going to volunteer to look at it. We have a city engineer here. Between the two of us, we should have been able to figure out what the heck's wrong with it. But if that's a software issue, then there's not much I can do about that. So
thank you. I think it was actually the panel that they had to remove, and he did locate one. So I just have to get back with him, and hopefully he still has that.
Okay,
but
thank you.
We have a manual thing. We found the crank, but you know what that's like. You got 44,000, voters or cards in there.
Okay.
Next we have Councilman Abdel Haq, please.
Yeah, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Lynn and your crew, thank you for a great job on the presidential election. You guys ran flawless election. It was very impressive.
Thank you.
Now, there are two kinds of files in the city the clerk should keep. The ones which go in front of the city council and approved, they are lifetime kept. And other things, they are 7 years, I believe. Then after 7 years, you can get rid of them. Looking at your space, it's very tiny. And I believe you should have an archive for everything we have. Contracts and any other resolutions or ordinances must be archived. However, it has to be done. This you should take into account and budget to hire somebody or some company. I don't know how that's in your hand, that it should be archived, and you should, I recommend the lights which were changed in the city are great. Maybe we should change the ones in the basement too. It's scary down there. And we need to have basically either cabins or shelves, and these files must be kept in a proper way. So it's easier for you and for all of us to get the information as fast as possible.
Yes.
And as far as you need somebody else in, part-time, I know the contract does not, or the charter does not allow more than 6 months of employment, and they have to be rotated after 6 months, the part-timers. I don't know if you want to add the permanent person that you have to discuss with our mayor, and I'm sure he's open, for to improve your office. And one thing, your deputy deserve a 3% definitely increase, and I encourage my colleagues to give her that increase. And the other ones, I can't do anything because it's contractual. And thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you very much, Councilman.
Thank you.
Abdullah.
Next, we have Councilman Abdullah.
Well, mine is more of a comment than necessarily a question. Just want to say that as much as I mean, as you see on the newspapers, et cetera, this is the only clerk's office that you have almost practically no glitches across the board, especially with the leadership of Kathy, Lynn, and then of course Dana and George. So I just want to give you guys kudos. You guys are rock stars. I mean, just an unbelievable job that you guys do. I even from residents or voters, I extremely rarely, and almost every time they've been wrong, get complaints about the clerk's office. So just want to let you guys know you guys are rock stars. Continue the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next, I have Mo Baidoon, Councilman Baidoon.
Hey, how are you? Thank you so much, Lynn. Great job. Thank you. Great presentation. I agree with Councilman Abdul-Haq. Kathy definitely goes above and beyond, and so does Dana and everybody else in your office.
Absolutely.
My only question is, I know, and maybe it's not brought up, right now, maybe you can't answer right now, but if we were to switch Canfield, which I'd be so disappointed in it, by the way, where would we be going?
Well, I know that the former clerk Walt, he did bring it forward. He did discuss it with Crestwood that we were gonna, in Crestwood was in agreement, and then COVID happened. So that was going to happen. I think, Kathy, I remember putting it on the agenda and then he pulled it.
So the reason, so are we moving Canfield because there's activities happening at Canfield while we're voting?
That would be Parks and Rec. They have a gymnastic program there.
One day.
One day.
I know, well, that would be up to Parks and Rec, and I guess there's a lot of equipment in there, and I'm just the newbie. And this has been going on, so I don't know if Director Constant wants to chime in on that. I know they deliver the equipment on Monday, they have the election on Tuesday, and then, DPW picks it up on Wednesday. So that's the reason though, because they have a paying activity in that room.
Are running in behind. Last, I have Councilman Constant, and then anybody else that needs to comment can do so at public comment if it's not their department. Go ahead, Councilman Constant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Lynn, thank you for all you do. Lynn, Kathy, Dana, Georgianne. I believe the law was changed to allow an original document to be on the hard drive on a computer as opposed to the paper document. I know with the courts, that's allowed, and all the courts have gone paperless. And I will let the clerk know there are companies that will come in and scan everything or give you the equipment to scan everything in. Doug Feldkamp knows about several of them, but good job and thank you.
Thank you.
I have Hassan Jamal, but at this point, we are not allowing anybody but the person who's presenting and council members to comment. There will be open comment at the end if you'd like to do so there. We are running way behind right now. Next, I have Court Administrator Atkins for the 20th District Court. Can somebody unmute them, please?
I unmuted her. You got her. I got her. Just
Hello, can
Michelle.
you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, please.
Hello, how are you? Hope you're all doing well. Okay, so with our budget, we really have not made any changes. Pretty much everything's going to be status quo. Obviously, this budget is didn't spend a lot. I mean, well, we spent half of our budget, I should say, as of today, due to COVID. Our part-timers really haven't been working due to no need. Like we have work program, part-time court officers, security officers, with our building being only partially open, very partially that is. We don't need security for a full day. So we just have them out there for a half a day. So our part-time is just very used just very littly as of at this time. But I didn't cut anything with the part-time because we're in hopes and anticipation that very soon we can come back to some normalcy and get some things back up and running. So with that, I mean, the only big key points in our budget that there was increases was in salaries, and that was due to contractual raises that are due come this July. And then we had a slight increase for our contractual services, because with our case management system and lien costs have gone up a little bit, and they haven't increased in years. So it was time. We just increased it very little. And part-time, like I said, we haven't made any changes, even though we hadn't spent anything out of there. And the fringe benefit figure increased, but that's just, due to percentages that we have to do for fringe benefits. So that's out of my control. I would have loved to keep that number nice and low for you all, and that would have kept my bottom line nice. But for the most part, everything is status quo, and I haven't made any changes. I had sent you guys just a little snippet of where we are revenue wise and with our caseloads. Obviously, due to COVID, things are down, hoping to get back up into some next budget year. Hopefully we can do it. So the revenue numbers are low. Spoke with the mayor, and he did state, with the funding that we're going to be receiving, that can help try to offset some of the difference with the revenue that we're not projecting. But currently our expenses are still lower than the revenues we brought in. So we're still covering ourselves with operating costs. And that's really all I have. I mean, I don't know if you guys have any questions for me.
Councilman Muscat, go ahead, please.
Yes, is Quatrain still the best way to go about, or is there a different system we could use that may be less expensive?
We have done a comparison with JIS over the years, and Quatrain still came in under JIS costs. And like, I've been here for 28 years, so we've always operated with Quatrain. So it's
You ain't old
that,
enough to be there 28 years.
I have been here a very long time. And we have, and we could, the JIS is offered. There's a couple other case management systems offered throughout the state. We've been with Quatrain. We're very happy with Quatrain.
Okay.
They're an automated system. They help make our lives a lot easier with caseload and working and processing our paperwork. Except for this last year, we've every court in the whole state of Michigan has had to make changes with virtual hearings and different types of noticing, and everything has been very long-handed and form-wise. So being here 28 years, I felt like a brand new employee over the last 2 years, because we've had to change up so many things, but we've got it running pretty smoothly now, even though everything is done virtually for the most part. We're hoping soon to be able to start some jury trials. We're hoping these numbers tick down a little bit so we can start moving to some kind of normalcy again, to getting some people back into the building, and doing some business, as opposed to handling everything online by Zoom. Zoom is great, but it takes a lot longer. As you guys all know, it takes a lot longer. Yeah.
But saying so, our record keeping with them, don't the records now belong to them, or they still belong to us if they should happen to fold or whatever?
Oh, no, they're ours. I mean, we have
Okay.
everything. So, I mean, we would get, say they folded or we had to move to a new case management. That's our property. It's the court's property, you know.
Yeah, that was
so.
my main concern.
Yeah, and the state has a program, it's called the JDW Warehouse, where all court information, all statewide, no matter what case management system you go to, goes to this centralized database. So even though we're Quadtran, you can still, if somebody had a disposition and another court wanted to look it up, they can go to this JDW Warehouse and see it, even though we're not on the same system.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councilman Abdullah, you have a question?
Yes. Oh, Abdullah.
Councilman Abdullah,
Okay.
Okay.
you're next though.
Hi,
Go
Michelle.
ahead, babe.
Hi.
We received an email from you in regards to caseload and revenue status and updates. And the question I had, I noticed that in the ordinance numbers, when you compare 2018-19 to 19-20 and 2021, the ordinance numbers, the revenues were down quite a bit, especially when you compare 2018-19. The question I had for you guys, and I know on civil, we don't handle that. It's on you guys then, same with the probation. So ordinance is one that concerned me the most. Was that reflective of us waiving tickets, or was that a reflective
That
of
was
ordinance
just
giving out less tickets, or?
It was less. I mean, because if you can look at the caseload from 2019, our total caseload was 32,526. Our
Mhm.
caseload in 2020 was only 16,700. And in 2021 through March 30th, we're at 3,566. So it's all based on caseload. I mean, we can't collect on things that aren't produced. So.
But that caseload there is not for ordinance only, is it?
That
'Cause
caseload
it's
is
just
not,
said
but
case
you got to
filings.
figure the bulk of, I mean, back in the day, the bulk of our filings were traffic and criminal. Right now, we have a very big uptick in civil cases, but with our civil caseload, there's no revenue generated for the city because
Correct.
with filing fees, we don't collect much on that. So, yeah, but the tickets were down. We didn't even hit last year. We didn't even get like 9,200 traffic tickets, you know.
No, I'm talking about ordinance specifically. That's where I'm
Well, the
most
ordinance,
concerned.
my ordinance total is not just like your ordinance or what you're thinking. It is city cases for local ordinance, for traffic tickets, for misdemeanors, for
I see.
municipal civil infractions. It's a combined total of what we collect locally.
I see. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Councilman Abdul Haq.
Yes, good morning again.
Morning.
Just a question about the traffic tickets between 2019, 2020, and 2021. What is the difference in revenue?
Well, I sent the revenue totals as well. The comparison is quite big. I mean, you've got to understand, I mean, if you have less tickets written, we're not collecting, so they go hand in hand. So caseload says it all. I mean, the revenue, if we have 20 tickets, I mean, we collect on 20 tickets. If we have one ticket, we can only collect on one ticket. So it's just based on, you know, the caseload. And you got to understand too, with legislation, a lot of our caseload dropped due to the marijuana changes. You know, when that law changed, we weren't getting those charges any longer. So we weren't collecting on them. Right now, our biggest charge, you know, with misdemeanor type tickets would be driving license suspended. And two, with new legislation that just passed this past April, who's going to say what's going to happen with the courts and how things are doing, because there's a lot of change with how we can collect, and we try to collect as best as we can. We give people time to pay, we give them payment plans, we work with them, we offer them court dates. But if the caseload is not high, the revenue is not going to be high.
Okay, the second question is, I see the grant writing, you have 3,500 and now you have 0 in 2018 and 19. Did anybody try to write for any grant or seek any grant to help the court?
We have not sought any grants. That grant you're referring to is the MIDC grant. That's the Michigan Indigent Defense Council grant. That's a state program where we have to comply with there's laws and standards we have to comply with to present representation at everybody's first appearance, and that is covered by the state. So that's what that grant is for. Those costs were when we initiated the grant. We get that every year. Currently, we're working on the new compliance plans for the next fiscal year, which starts in October of 21. So we will start that, but I've done the grant writing. That's the only grant we're dealing with, but that's through the state for
Thank you.
court-appointed attorneys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have Councilman Constant.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Michelle, thank you for the great job you and the court does. I know that indigent criminal defense, they assign an attorney at the arraignment. And is that one attorney or is that done on a rotating basis?
We have right now for first appearance, we have a rotating basis with 5 different attorneys or firms. So for 1 week, this week, we have one set attorney who's here for every day, like basically queen or king of the court, to handle the arraignment cases when they come in, if anybody's in custody. Obviously, the defendant has a right to waive their right to but we offer it to every single person at first appearance because that is what is told to us that we have to do for the indigent counsel. But yeah, we have a rotating basis for first appearance. So every arraignment, Monday through Friday, we have an attorney who is here in the mornings, signs in every day in the mornings and is on call for the afternoons if anybody should need representation. And then if that person should plead not guilty and want to proceed, if they request a court-appointed attorney, those are done on an appointed basis.
Thank you. And with the changes in the first party auto no fault, I see Judge Plawecki here. Do you anticipate the no fault cases will come down, or have they started to come down?
He's muted.
I
Hold on
asked
one
him to
second.
unmute. No, I've asked him.
Hang on. Oh,
It's a
Nope.
delayed process.
Can they hear me?
yes.
Okay, well, they have not come down yet. I hope they will eventually, but not as yet, Councilman Constant.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
At
We're
this
hoping,
time,
we're hoping and praying that they come down because that's just overtaken our whole court.
It really has.
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you. At this time, I see no further council hands, so we will move on to Park and Recreation Department and the Richard A. Young Center with Director Constant.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. We had a bunch of work done on our computers last week and my computer is acting all crazy because they connected us with City Hall. So it's, I'm not sure what works on it and what doesn't work on it, but getting to the budget, the recreation budget, there's one change in regards to the employee salaries. That actually on that page 1, and I know you guys had mentioned earlier that there's things that are, you know, union and handled in the union contract. That clerical 2 was actually agreed upon and changed to a clerical 3 when Ken Greibel was here. And then the salary for that position was taken out of the budget. The amount for that, in addition to put in, and this was the previous administration that took it out, was only an increase of $1,194.32. We do have the union document stating that, you know, this change in this position has been made. So I would actually just like to take from the part-time monies, that amount to put into the full-time salaries. So we can finally correct that, which has went on for the last year and a half. So that's the first run in the salaries. And then going over to the other side, major changes, basically, I do have to tell you, our budget in the last 2 years has been cut extremely. So the figures that you're seeing from 20 to 21, to 21 to 22 are extremely different in some of the categories, and that's because of the major cuts that we've received. Our budget is all out of whack. In addition to that, because other things for other departments and other things that needed to be paid for by the city in the last 2 years has actually been taken out of our budget. So this 2021 current working budget that we have, due to COVID, due to the past administration, is actually way off in a lot of the figures. So when you look at the figures that I've got in for 21 to 22, the differences lie within those two things. Capital outlay, I've got 188,000. We've got a parking lot here at the Canfield Center on the other side of the Elite Sports Center that actually wasn't done and hasn't been done for like 20 years. I did get a price on that, so that's in there. And actually, partial amount of money is in there for our tennis courts. And I'm looking to use our Wayne County park millage money to be able to complete the project for the tennis courts. And those are the Swapka Park tennis courts. This year, what I've been trying to do is take every little dime that I think that we might have left in account and transfer it into capital outlay so that we can complete some of these projects that have needed to be done for years. I will be coming to the city council soon because we're almost to the end of the budget year, trying to transfer some more of that money into the capital outlay, and then also requesting to carry it over to next year's budget so we can complete these projects. I've been around to almost every facility and every park. They're all in very, very bad shape, and we need to start really investing in our community. As you know, Councilman Abdullah had said, there's a lot of things that don't look good, and I'm really trying to move forward to try and get these corrected so that we can have, you know, some beautiful parks and beautiful facilities in our city. So I think for the recreation budget, that's pretty much it, except for, you know, what questions you would have. And then the Richard A. Young changes in that, I was actually able to make a lot of the repairs that we need at Richard A. Young in this current budget. However, the projects are not going to be done this year. So that means the payments won't be going out this year, which means I'll have to transfer money from that capital outlay for this year into next year, as I would the Van Houten play structure money, because I don't want to start everything and leave the neighborhood without a play structure for the whole entire summer, especially with COVID. There's not really much you can do indoors, so it's really important that we keep all of our outdoor activities available. And the capital outlay for Richard A. Young basically consists of a whole new circuit of equipment, weights and things like that. They've never been replaced. Some of them are in really poor shape. I'm thinking that we might be able to sell some of the old stuff, you know, and maybe have it as revenue, depending on the condition of it. But by the time that we get done with Richard A. Young, there's only a couple of small projects left to be done, and it should be almost like a brand new building. So I'm very happy about that. You probably have heard we have a condition or conditions with our restrooms up front. And basically what's happening is the corner of the restrooms are sinking down. I'm working with the city engineer on that. He's been wonderful, by the way. He actually helped me with the diagrams and the specifications that I need to go out for bids for this project. And what we need to do is, resure the ground underneath the building, raise it up and repair everything. It's actually kind of sinking in the corner. So we're working on that. I just finished the bids for the kitchen. I'll be coming to you for those as far as approving those bids. We're going to replace the floor in the meeting room. We just resurfaced the whirlpool. It is broken right now, but we've got a company coming next week. Our old company wasn't available anymore, so we've got a new company that we're starting to work with that's going to get it up and running. The sauna, we're going to be getting that up and running, limiting that to one person unless it's a family member, then it can be two, because we've had a lot of requests with that. So basically, I've already went out for bids, and we're out for bids for refinishing the gym floor. And then we're also going to, since we're getting the new equipment after July 1, as long as it passes in this budget, we are replacing the fitness room floor, the dingy, awful looking carpet that has the pass that you can see to each equipment piece is going to be replaced with a rubber floor. One similar that we have in both the senior centers, and they were installed years ago, and the whole thing still looks brand new. So I'm excited about the Richard A. Young Center. We're also, working on the Canfield Center, and we've got the tile bids in, and we just recently had the whole building painted thanks to Building and Maintenance Department. So we're actually moving forward. Unfortunately, I don't think that you could ever give the Parks and Recreation Department enough money, because there's so much that needs to be done, because there hasn't been hardly anything done in the last 2 to 3 years due to COVID, due to budget constraints, and so on. So I'm excited to go forward and get some of these done so that we can actually be proud of our city facilities. I think that I've covered most of what I need to cover. So, other than I'll be coming to you again before this year ends to transfer monies in different accounts. That's pretty much it. I'm trying to make a penny or a dime stretch as far as I can. So if you have questions now.
I have Councilman Abdullah. Go ahead with your question, please.
Yes, hello, Director. First of all, great job and your continued
you.
improvements in that department. So thank you. I had a question in regards to the salaries. I know one of the proposals with the mayor a couple of meetings back was in regards to the switch in not the switch in salaries, the adjustments in salaries between the deputy director and the director, and then the switching in positions. That doesn't seem to be reflected in here. Can you address that if you don't mind?
I don't know which document that you're looking at. Obviously,
Okay, so
the
what I'm
Zoom is making it
looking
very
at,
difficult.
what I'm looking at, I don't know if you can see it here.
Okay,
This
all right.
particular page.
Basically, I budgeted for the salary of the 80,000. I do want to say that last council meeting, you guys approved an increase for myself, but it was really misled. And I think by Ray Muscat's comment, you guys actually thought it was the 10.5% that you guys voted in for me when I was a deputy. It was not. The 5940 that you voted in for me the last council meeting was actually the 10% that I gave back to the city in 2011. So I'm still down, way down. Even if I were still as a position of the deputy, I'm not making what I could have been making as a deputy if I hadn't had all of the things happen in the past. And obviously I don't want to go into detail about those, but so basically if I would have gotten my 10% back, and this is based on when they actually happened, these figures, it's not based on accumulating above, raises that everyone has gotten. I basically in the last, since 2011, maybe got a total of a 3% increase as a deputy, if that. And I do have all the figures and stuff like that. So if I were to be where I should have been at as a deputy, I would have actually been a little over 70,000. Now that's in regards to my salary as a deputy. I've taken on this new position. I'm also still doing a lot of grant writing for the department. I do have my master's degree. When Ken Greibel went into the program for, the retirement plus the, his paycheck, he was making $88,000 a year. So there's a bunch of variables in regards to why, I requested that. And in regards to the deputy director salary, I hate to coin this term only because it's very painful to me, but I did not put that increase in. It was Elizabeth Perry for the Human Resources Department because they want to keep all of the deputies the same. So like I said, I hate to use that statement and I don't want to go into detail on that because I know most of you know that situation in regards to that. And then the other thing that I do want to mention that I mentioned earlier, that clerical 2 should actually be a clerical 3. And the amount should actually be $1,194.32 in addition to that. And I should mention with the senior coordinators, I was given 1 in the budget, but that actually will work to my advantage because I only have 1 coordinator now. And she's going to test for that position, and that's Patty Malloy. And then we'll see how that plays out. And then I'm hoping to use that list to, hire the second senior coordinator from. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, you gave me the details on it, but I still need the actual raw numbers. I don't know, I'm not sure if it's
Okay.
you or who can provide that for us as far as what we had approved about 1 or 2 meetings ago.
In regards to me,
To yourself and the deputy director. Do you have the exact numbers?
I don't
offhand?
have his, but I know he had he's got 2021. It looks like he was 54,000. I think he received a $4,000 raise when he became deputy. And then my salary was the 57,855.72 when I became the director. And then last council meeting, you guys voted in to restore my 10% that I gave back to the city when I was a deputy in 2011. Of course, that was not retroactive or anything. The figures were taken based on what the salary was that I was making at that time, which was a little over 59,000. So does that?
So the number would have been then, you're saying 57,855 plus another 10% roughly?
No. It would have been 57,855.72 plus 59.40, which was last
59.40.
week or last council meeting.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Sorry, it's so complicated.
That's okay.
Time, I think Elizabeth Perry wanted to make something, say something.
I was just gonna say, his salary is accurate on the budget sheet at 54,000. That was a few, like March meeting, when that salary was amended. It was, the director's salary is not under the current salary. It obviously is not, because that was just passed at the last meeting. And so I could send you it, or it should be reflective of, let's see, $63,796. So we'll update that before the final documents drafted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Councilman Baydoun.
You can go ahead and skip me. I completely forgot. I was writing down my notes. You can go on to Councilman Abdul Haq and come back to me.
Okay. Nope, I have Councilman Muscat next.
Thank you, Council Chair. Quick question. I hear that you were talking, we heard about the parking lot at the at the Eaton or at the Canfield Center. Have we discussed at all what we can do with the drive-ups and driveaways at the golf course? They're in real bad shape. Is that any, and how is that going to get paid for? Is that revenues from the golf course or come out of the recreation budget?
Well, you know what? That is actually something to be determined that I have to actually really dive into. There is some things that the city would have to cover. And actually, like I said, there's no way that you can give me enough money to cover everything that needs to be done.
Correct.
So what I've tried to do is prioritize things, and basically I'm starting with safety. The Van Houten play structure is a safety item. It needs to be demolished. We could have some major injuries on that. The next thing is the net at the Warren Valley Golf Course that needs to be put up along Ann Arbor Trail between Berwyn and oh, I forget the other street, but it's a pretty good stretch. It's about 1,000 feet. And I went out there. There's a house where there's a little girl and she's playing in the backyard all the time. And there must have been a half a dozen golf balls in the yard. So, I mean, and that's going to be about a $400,000 cost.
And not to cut you off on that. And I said, you know, I questioned that when we bought the golf course, because that should have came with the golf course and why the county took that. That was a fumble, a big fumble that we lost, because that fencing was part of the golf course. And I'd like to see some way that our attorney looks into that, why we didn't keep that, why that was taken down and taken away from us, because that just didn't make any sense at all.
I actually was trying to find out what, I don't think you're talking about fencing because you did say fencing. I was actually trying to find out what happened to the netting. And the only thing that I have been told is that it must have been in bad shape, so they took it down. But I can't verify that because I never saw it.
Well, you don't take something down without replacing it right away. That was something I truly believe that the county said it was theirs.
Yeah, well, I am going to write a grant to the MMRA to try and get part of that money. There's certain things that they will accept, and that's one of them. I had already talked to a couple of people there, so I'm actually in the process of hiring somebody to do a golf ball trajectory study. And that's all this company does. And I've talked to him on a number of occasions. I'm squeaking that out of my budget so that I can kind of, you know, have something to go out for bids for, so I know what I need to write the grant for.
I'd still like to see our city attorney look into why that netting did not come with the golf course. I remember that vividly, that they were taking it down. And nobody gave us a good reason why they took it down.
No. And what I could do is I could call the recreation director there and see if he knows and start with that. But I don't know if that is, going to make a difference.
Well,
depending on what the reason is. But I mean, I'd like to know myself too.
I mean, $400,000 for a netting, that's going to come out of our city coffers when we paid $1.8 million for the golf course, which encompassed the whole golf course, except for some of those restricted 2 holes that they needed to have access to. But the fact of the matter is that netting belonged to the golf course.
Yeah, and it is our liability. So we have to make sure that no matter whatever ends up turning out, we have to make sure that net is put back up there. We're actually, I'm surprised something hasn't been happened yet in regards to that.
It's gonna.
And it's a 9-year-old girl that's playing all the time, and the mother's basically got frustrated. The past administrator told her, this is what he told her, and this is what she told me, that if a ball comes in your yard, you have to run over to the golf course and find who hit that ball.
Yeah, right.
But first you got to, jump over the big, huge fence. And I don't see her doing that. She's about as tall as I am. So that was his solution. And I don't agree with that at all. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Constant.
Abdul
Can't
Haq?
hear you. There you go.
Councilman Abdul Haq?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say I'm very happy to see that things are corrected finally for Director Constant, and I'm happy that you are in the right place. The salary of $80,000, I would like to reduce it to $75,000. And hopefully in the future, we will give her a raise, which I am fully confident that she deserves. And if she can keep, give us the 3 days for the election at Canfield Center, so we can keep the precincts 12 and 13 in Canfield Center. Other than that, thank you for a good job. You're doing a great job, and I hope you keep doing what you're doing.
The situation with the gym, there's a lot more to it that actually has been brought up, and I was actually going to touch that when you were done. But basically, I have a wonderful, wonderful gymnastics program here. We have a very, very big supportive base of the people in the community that want to see it continue here. They have had to increase their equipment because of the number of residents who are participating in the program. And to be able to offer the higher levels of gymnastics, we've had to secure some of the pieces either to the floor or the wall for safety purposes. It's very difficult to move the equipment, and we have no storage here. So when we do move it, there's no place to put it. Now, with respect to all of that, the revenue that we have brought in from just our gymnastics program, the last one pre-COVID was 50,000. And with the joint programming that I've wanted to do for years with them, I do see that climbing 80, possibly, $100,000. So I don't think that it's a revenue that the city could do without. If we had a larger facility, something like that, that would be different. But they have said to me several times that if they have to continue moving the equipment, that they would have to find another location. And that program is just like our parks and our facilities. When we get them up and we get them running and we get them shining, that gymnastics program that we have here that I started years ago with this company, and just a little note, this gymnastics program used to be held at Riverside School years ago. And anyway, so it's actually like coming back into the Heights, but it services a lot of our community, and it's a wonderful recreation program. And if they had to look for another facility, it would be devastating for the city. I do believe that. That's my personal opinion.
Thank you.
I have Councilman Baydoun.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you to Director Constant for everything that you're doing here. My thing was already answered by Councilman Dave Abdullah. I wanted to know what the increase of the raise was at first. But secondly, you brought up the Canfield Center, and I just kind of want to, I want to comment on that. I actually went there the other day. I know there's a festival happening there, and one of the potholes was so big.
Mhm.
And like I said, my God, if I didn't notice it, and mind you, it's dark, I would have tripped over and I would have been extremely embarrassed. However, I do feel that is a safety issue there, that definitely does need to be repaired. I'm also on there with Councilman Abdul Haq about the Canfield Center. I enjoy going to Canfield. I think it's just like our stationary. And if we have to make the adjustments to Crestwood, sure. But I know for the last 20 years it's been at Canfield. Maybe we can work with the program director to see that maybe we can just move some of the boxes up front, since there are a lot more absentee ballots going out now since of COVID and everything that's going on. Maybe we can look into that as well.
Well, the thing of it is with moving it up front, there's no room, there's no space. It wouldn't be large enough for the clerk. We told them that we have still the meeting room available, but it's not large enough. So that's the situation. We really can't have both is what it's come to, unfortunately.
Okay. And then the last thing that I have is I had a couple of residents reach out to me. Maybe we can add it to next year's budget, but just kind of put it out there. I know you're doing a lot, and thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for the Richard A. Young Center. Thank you for fixing up our parks. Maybe having a track at Canfield where people are able to walk around, maybe to the tennis courts behind it, maybe with a little bit of lighting. I'm not sure if that's possible, but I know there isn't anywhere really also where you can, like, I know there's one at Silvery Lane, but I seen that track. I actually went there 2 days ago since I wanted to say that maybe there was one next to the one at Silvery Park. I think it's called Van Horten Park. It seems like it's chipping up. A lot of the residents that I spoke to around that area just said, you know, we can't even walk around the track because it's kind of broken down. And I know you said safety is a huge issue. A lot of them are actually seniors. And he said, I can't walk in it because I almost tripped.
Mhm.
So maybe we can look at repaving that, and maybe we can add one around Canfield, you know, to walk through the tennis courts, just something at night so that the residents can still continue to do that and staying off the streets. We know that there are a lot of scat backs. We know that a lot of people are speeding on these roads. And I know the police department's doing a great job at catching those and stopping them, but it seems like they're just not going away. So maybe if we can look into that as well, maybe for next year's budget. I get it. I know you're doing a lot of work.
Well, I totally agree with you, but worse than the track at Van Houten Park, and I don't know if you've been there, is the parking lot.
I did see it too.
You could actually it's just disintegrated into little tiny pieces. So basically I'm in the middle of taking a playground safety certification course. I'm going to go through and evaluate all of our parks. And then I have to prioritize everything that needs to be done. Like I said, I don't think you could give me enough money because things have been let go for so long that almost everything is in very, very poor shape.
And I agree. I definitely agree. My other thing was just to kind of piggyback off what you said. It was the safety thing. This was just the other day where I said I want to go see the park. I was actually taking some photos there.
Yeah.
2020 election, 2021 election. And I said, man, this is not nice. It's not pleasant.
Yeah. And that's just one of the parks. Almost every single park has got, and then we've got some huge issues still at Van Houten that don't have to do with even the play structure. When we first started working on that park in the spring, it just looked like it wasn't even a park. I mean, it looked like somebody actually ran through the fence with their car. Fortunately, building and maintenance got right on that. We, ordered the parts and that's been fixed, so that doesn't look as bad. But the parking lot there's just so many things that need to be done that it's overwhelming. In regards to your idea about the track at Canfield, that's something that I actually have on my list.
Wow.
Yeah, I would love to see that. But obviously there are other priorities, but the big thing in regards to that is we can't get money for anything right now because of what's happened with our master plan being out almost 4.5 years out of date now. But that is moving forward, and now we're at a point where we're just waiting for the surveys to get in. So please fill out the surveys. They are online now, and so you can do it digitally or you can do it in person and give us what your ideas are. I know that Ray Muscat, I put his radio control
Yes, thank you.
in, and I also have Tom Wenzel's, because I love this idea, dog park, and now we're going to go ahead and we'll add that track for Mo. But you could really be, a big help by completing those surveys for us. So if you
Thank
can,
you.
I'd
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
everything you're doing. I appreciate that. And I know this is definitely a huge burden that's been on a city. So I thank you and continue keeping up the good work.
Thank you.
Next, we have Department of Public Works, Highway and Building Maintenance Director Selmy.
Morning. Well, I'll keep mine short and sweet, and these budgets are pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of increases in these budgets as far as most of the line items. They are capital intensive type of budgets. You can start with the highway budget. In the capital there, I spoke to the mayor about this. We're in need of another new street sweeper here. You know, these things are about, you know, $280,000 to $300,000. These pieces of equipment are, you know, our big ask. Also in need of a new tandem dump truck, which is about in the $200,000 price range. So that being so capital intensive, I brought to the attention of the mayor that the last two street sweepers were purchased through the Act 99 program over 5 years. I talked to Treasurer Riley about this the other day. The interest rate they got on those were 2.7% over 5 years. So that would kind of smooth the budget process for capital instead of taking all this hit at one time. So that certainly is an option. Like, again, I spoke to the mayor about that. So, you know, that's something that the council may want to consider instead of trying to do this purchase. You know, just those two pieces of equipment alone, we're talking almost $500,000. So that's what I would have on the big part of the capital there. There's a small 550 dump truck that we're requesting. And that's about it on the capital. I would like to chat a quick moment about employees staffing, right? So currently the DPW right now is down 7 people. That includes staffing for the water department. At the end of this year, looking at another 7 to 8 retirements. I've also spoken to the mayor about this. That's a huge concern. That's a large chunk of our workforce, a lot of historical knowledge. I know it's a contract year. I know the HR director spoke about this last week. You know, our contracts are entry-level wages, even across the board when you get to top scale, are very, at the very end, at the low scale compared to other municipalities in this area. So it's a big challenge for the council to, you know, figure out what's going to happen there, and the mayor and administration in contract negotiations. But I can't emphasize that enough that, you know, towards the end of this year, that's a big hole to fill. So, you know, especially we're a 24/7 operation, you know, we need to have people, right? And there's rules and regulations about amount of time they can work and how many hours they can drive and of things of those nature. So just want to keep that on everybody's radar. So with that, in the highway budget, I'd answer any questions that you have.
We have Councilman Abdullah.
Hello, Director. First of all, as you know, I've consistently said this, and I'll say it again. You've been doing a great job since you've taken over. Your customer service is beyond anybody else's. Anytime I've called you with a problem, you've consistently taken care of that, and the residents have been very happy. So good job on that. I've also noticed that you're doing a lot more street sweeping than you ever did in the past. But one of the things that I talked to you about during our last budget is if we could because there's still a lot of residents that feel that their streets are not being swept. I know and presume that that's more than likely not the case, but if you remember, we're going to put that online as far as which streets you've done so that people can go to that and see what date, not time, but at least what date their streets were swept, because there's still a lot of residents that feel that their streets are not being swept. I don't know if you could comment on that. That's one. And then two, I noticed that with the grass cutting, the city grass cutting, that had dropped quite a bit from the 2020-21 amended budget from 90 to 60,000. If you could address that also, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah. So thank you. So the street sweeping one. So we just recently, the council just approved the contract with Silversmith, which is a work order management system. So we are getting trained on it next week, and that will allow us to, across the board, the whole entire DPW, to create work orders and to put work completed on a daily basis and things of that nature. So now we'll regularly have it on a web-based system where that way we can transfer that data to the website or to wherever it needs to be to show where we have swept. Currently, right now, you know, the city has no programs or any types of tools like that, and we do it with paper and pencil. But like I told you last year, that we would be getting this program. You just approved it. We get trained next week, so hopefully, maybe, I don't know, I don't want to overstate, but sometime in June we can be up and running, and then we can share on the website where we've swept on a weekly basis.
Beautiful.
Uh,
What
secondly-
about the grass cutting? Yes.
Yep. Secondly, on the grass cutting, if you remember, the council wanted us to go out to bid for that contract, which we did. And then, so the bid came in at $45,000 per year, basically reducing that fee from 90 to 45. I added another 15,000 in there just for some unforeseen activities that may have to happen within the city. So that's the reason for the reduction, is that we went out to bid and got a lower contract.
Okay.
Price.
And then lastly, as far as snow plowing, you've had a drastic improvement versus previous years in the city. Just want to make a comment. Please continue to focus on that, because residents' biggest issues is cleanliness, snow plowing. I mean, these are two major factors for a lot of residents. So please continue to focus on that, as I'm sure the mayor's administration would also continue to push for that. So thank you.
If I could just add on to that, the equipment that the council has approved over the last couple of years has allowed us to be more proactive and be more efficient. We don't have a bunch of broken down equipment in our garage. That's the reason we asked for another tandem dump truck for plowing situations and other operations. And, this couldn't get done without the entire team, right? So hats off to the employees that, work 16, 18, 20 hours plowing snow, throwing salt down, so it's a whole team effort. So I'd like to make sure that they're recognizing this operation also.
Absolutely. But it does start at the leadership, and just want to give you kudos. Good job.
Thank you.
Next, we have Councilman Baydoun.
Hey, Director Salmi, thank you so much for that presentation. Also, like Councilman Dave Abdullah, I'm your biggest fan. I'm going to say I love you. Thank you for always being so pleasant, so kind. Every time I call you, you're always one step ahead. But I just wanted to bring this up to you. I don't know if maybe you want to add this to the budget. I don't know if there's anything that you have in place. I was actually before Ramadan, me and Councilman Dave Abdullah were going over the budget. We were actually eating. I believe somebody from Wayne County, the chief of staff to the executive's office, walked up to us and said, if you want to work with DPW and maybe we could put a plan together, Wayne County is willing to pay for half of the pricing to fix the roads in the city of Dearborn Heights, as long as we put together basically a program. Maybe Councilman Dave Abdullah can chime in on that a little bit too, if he recalls us on that day.
Yeah, basically the chief of staff said that they have money available to them where they're willing to pitch into different road improvements that we have in Dearborn Heights, provided we pay for half and they'll pay for half. And this is something that obviously would have to start from the administration, from the mayor's department, to pursue that through the county, which they do have the money available to be able to use for that. So, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind maybe pursuing that, it'd be a great idea.
So I'll just add one more thing before I let the mayor. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I ended up following back up with him. Being that he said he sees a lot of roads obviously in Dearborn Heights that are, outdated or cracked, and means you have had that conversation. He said, just reach out to the mayor's office, reach out with your DPW director, and we can go ahead and put that forward. I don't know if that's something that we can afford right now, but I'm sure that the mayor can go ahead and speak on that.
So, yeah, I know the mayor has his hand up, but the road budget will be coming up in probably the next couple of weeks, or probably a month or so. The road budget, that would be a good point to have that conversation.
Thank you. Okay, then we can do that. And then the last thing I just have for you is, I know I went on that ride along with that snowplow. It was extremely fun, and I had great conversations. But I go back to the hiring. I know that you guys are going to be losing an employee that's been with the city for over 30 years, who's about to retire. He knows every water line inside the city, from what I was told. I know it's hard to hire, but I hope that this administration, and I hope that when we go over to work on these union contracts, we can really see a pay raise, and I hope that we can push for that.
Want to chime in at this time?
Thank you, Council Chair. Just to just a comment on Council Pro Tem Abdullah and Councilman Baydoun. So I have been working with the Economics and Development Director, Mr. Rahab. I've actually met with them several times, and we are working on a plan. I agree with you that with Mr. Mr. Turfy brought that up to you guys. And so we are currently working with a director for economics and development. And we're putting a plan together to see like what streets that they can actually help us with. So if we pitch in a certain amount that they can match it. So it takes away money from the city. So we don't have to pay full cost for certain street works. So we are working on a plan, and actually we do have a meeting with them this afternoon as well, and that's one of the topics that we are discussing. So we are meeting with Wayne County. They've been very helpful, and they are hands-on. They have been engaging with our community more now than ever.
Good, thank you.
Next, I have Councilman Muscat.
Thank you, Council Chair. Just to say my piece on this, the DPW is doing a great job. I've seen a very big uptick on the things they've accomplished. As far as the street sweeping, we do probably need a new street sweeper, but all the new equipment in the world isn't going to help us if the people don't help DPW by getting their cars off the street. Now, if they don't want to enforce the law, we can't blame DPW for not being able to meet. It's a waste of manpower and fuel and wear and tear on our vehicles if the equipment can't get down the street to do the proper job. So a lot of that is on the general public itself and not on the DPW. That's just my comment. Thank you.
Next,
Madam
we
Chair,
have
can I-
Council.
Madam
go
Chair,
ahead.
can I just respond to that? So just in response to that, Councilman, I did have a conversation with Chief Myers yesterday. I'm going to try to work on a proactive plan where we're going to notify the department where we're going to be sweeping that week in specific streets and areas. So to try to be a little bit more proactive and be more resourceful with the police department to try to help us out with those concerns.
Yeah, you deserve to get the help. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Councilman Abdul Haq.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank Director John for great work he's doing. There has been great improvement since you took over and everybody noticed it. So thank you for what you're doing for our residents. I have 3 things I like to talk about. I would like you to work with the city engineer to go through our buildings and see what can we fix and what can we upgrade so we have longer lifetime for those buildings until we have enough money probably to do something else. So Mr. Ali Adib is a great asset, and I appreciate if you work with him because his knowledge, especially in the infrastructure, is great. So the second thing is the roads. There is lots of roads in our city need to be repaired, and some, especially on Cherry Hill, that area, we need to work with either county or whoever, a part of that road to fix it because really it's in terrible shape. Now we have lots of trees, dead trees in the city, some places. I would like to see if you can have a plan either to cut them or hire some company to cut those trees, and maybe we plant something else in their place. And thank you very much for everything you have done.
Thank you. Can I quickly respond to a couple of his
Go ahead.
comments?
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman. So number one, about working with the Mr. Dibb, we certainly can set that up, and with our building supervisors, they obviously know all the issues in the buildings, kind of like a broken record. It's just a lot of things have gotten kicked down the road with no preventative maintenance or no proactive approach. So everything's always been reactive. So I'm in the mindset that, I like to be proactive instead of reactive. It seems costs a little more in the front, but in the back end, it certainly pays off. Secondly, on Cherry Hill. So Cherry Hill is a Dearborn Heights Inkster jurisdiction road. I had a conversation with the engineer and the director from Inkster last week to see if they had some interest in doing that road. doesn't make sense for Dearborn Heights to do their side and Inkster doesn't do their side, right? So there are conversations there. Also reached out to MDOT. Maybe there's some assistance that can be provided with them. So Councilman Muscat had brought this up at a council meeting maybe a month or so ago. And so we are starting those conversations, and we have a partner city there, so they have to be on board with us too, right? And have the finances and go forward with that. And then the other comment about the trees, 2019, the city hasn't had that much tree work done, and I don't know how long, right? When I got here was, everything was reactive. The new supervisors that are on board in the department now are very proactive. They're doing a great job. The team's doing a great job. COVID last year from March 16th to July 4th or 5th, whatever it was, we didn't hardly work. We operated 24/7, but we didn't have full-time crews in here. So we are working hard. I mean, we got guys out cutting trees every day. So I'd appreciate your comment. And we do have a contractor on board with us to help with the big stuff that is above our skill sets, Dearborn Tree. And so those are my comments. So thank you.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Director.
Thank you. Next, I have Councilman Constant.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Director John Selmy, you're doing a great job. The water line, lead water line replacement, do you have any idea how far along we are? Are we almost done? Are we halfway through? I know we contract that out, but
so yeah, so quickly I can answer that. I mean, that's in the water and sewer budget, but we are over 500 services. We started out with 198 known services. We are over 500. I'll probably come to the council for one more budget amendment for contract increase, and that will be the budget amount. Going forward, we're going to have to find a funding source. Either it's out of the water and sewer fund, or if we can find some grant money or low interest loans from the state, which we've been in contact with. So we've had a very proactive approach, probably a leader on that, doing this many services. The contractor that we have on board has been outstanding. I know of 2 complaints out of over 500 services that have been replaced. And that's going into everybody's home and putting a new water line in there. So hats off to our contractor too. They're doing an amazing job. So there's plenty of work there. The big question mark is going to be a funding source, just like everything else.
Great explanation. Thank you. That's all I have.
Next, we're going to move on to Ordinance Department. This is with Director Dishroom. There he
Can you
is.
hear me? Can you see me too?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I am presenting from the City Hall, 6045 Fenton, Dearborn Heights, Michigan, and Wayne County. Please bear with me. This is my first budget, so please bear with me. I'm going to try to keep it short. As you can see, I have a few items that have gone up for the next budget. Obviously, the salaries has gone up per the request for the director's salary to be raised up to $75,000. Also, the overtime has been raised up as well. We have compensation may be needed for weekend animal emergency calls and call-ins. And then the intent was to have a low-cost animal vaccination clinic, and then the spring and summer sweeps, ordinance sweeps. I'm not sure if either of those are going to happen because of COVID, but I think they're tentatively scheduled. We have, I didn't mean to skip over. I skipped over salaries for part-time personnel. That's still at about $55,000. Clothing, I believe, is staying the same, $2,500. It's necessary to have clothing for our ordinance officers to make sure they're identifiable to people. We have a couple of things in there for dues for animal control memberships for MACO and NACA. I'm sure nobody's familiar with that, but those are a couple of the groups that we use for training and other resources. Supplies, have been, I believe is the same. Fringe benefits, it's up again, it's up, it's 170,000. Obviously, we don't really have much control over that. Everything else, if you go down, is pretty much the same as requested as before, except for capital outlay. And the intent with that is to do an upgrade in the car docking stations for the new tablets that we have not deployed yet. And also on the lease payments going back up, we're entertaining the idea of possibly purchasing some of the vehicles. I have to sit down with Mayor Bazzi and his office and try to figure out what we're gonna do regarding that. But motor fuel repair and maintenance has stayed the same. And then training, I think we raised up as well. Sorry to jump around on you guys. I apologize for that. Training is remaining the same. I want to keep everybody in the department, their skill set up as much as possible. That's one of my personal goals. I think it's very important to do that. So any questions so far?
Okay, we have
Yes.
Councilman Abdullah, please.
So Director, I have two things. I had a statement to make, but before I do, you mentioned in regards to overtime. That was one of my questions. You said that's going to be increased due to the fact that we're going to be having a little bit more animal control over the weekend. But when I looked at the different years, throughout the years, it's been quite a bit less than that. So the question to you is, did we pretty much practically not have that around at all? And is that something we're adding, or what's the reason for the, quite drastic increase?
Well, the overtime was requested to be increased to cover any animal emergencies that we might have. Obviously, it's down. The 2020 activity is only about 6,600.
Right.
So in addition to that, I think that the intent was to use the cost that would be incurred from the low cost vaccination clinic that they've had in the past. I don't think it was held last year because of COVID. And also I don't think they did the spring and summer sweeps last year, the ordinance sweeps, where they invite everybody in. So I'm a little bit leery about doing it because of COVID still, but that's something I'm going to talk to the mayor's office about maybe doing this year. I'm still a little bit leery about that, but that was the purpose of that amount.
Okay. And then the second one's more of a statement. Now, I'm very blunt, so please don't take offense to it. This is not meant towards you specifically. In the last probably 20 or 30 years, I've seen, if not longer, as a realtor in this area, I've just seen the city's cleanliness deteriorate more and more and more week after week after week, month after month, year after year. So this is not a reflection on you, none whatsoever. But you have, big shoes to fill, and I'm sure you're up to the task. But I would personally be in favor, and I don't know how the other council members, feel about that. If either we have to add more ordinance officers, or your officers have to kick up their efficiency, but a lot more people have got to start to get either citations or tickets, because I could tell you, when you compare our city to a lot of other cities, especially considering this, city was established in 1963, we should not have that much long grass, dandelions, dirt, garbage, lack of maintenance on houses. And again, this is no reflection on you, but I look to you to put together a game plan. And if it means a little bit more finances towards your department, I personally have no problem with it. If we need to add more officers, I have no problem with it. But what I don't want is where I sometimes have gone to City Hall and I see a lot of the officers, and I'm sorry, no offense, inside the ordinance department. That's not where I'd like to see them personally. I'd like to see them on the road, either giving tickets or citations, because this city's got to go to the next level as far as improvements, as far as cleanliness is concerned. And I know it's a major task, and I know it's not your fault, but at the end of the day, it's going to be reliant on you and your department to take this to the next level, in addition to a lot of our residents doing a much better job of keeping their own properties clean. Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, thank you for allowing me to speak.
Wait a minute. I was waiting to see if Director Selmy, did you have a response? And then I'll let you speak, Mayor, because I know there's some. I'm sorry, not Director Selmy, Director Dishroom.
I did actually, and thank you for bringing that up, Councilman. But I would like to have more people. It's hard to get people. We have a lot of positions to fill. We have people rotating in and rotating out. We've lost a person. We're getting another full-time person in. I would like to add a full-time violation clerk for specifically for court issues. I need part-time people as well. I have one that's actually starting on Tuesday. I think maybe, I'm not sure which day you're referring to when you saw people in here, but generally speaking, the guys go out on the road and we have staggered times.
This was, to be clear, this was in the past, just to be
Yeah.
clear. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I want these guys out there doing everything they possibly can. And these guys that I have, the staff that I have right now is awesome. Michelle is awesome. I have another thought on her position in particular that I wanted to mention as well, but I'm trying my best with what I have, and it would be helpful if residents would help as well by keeping their property clean. And you know that this is something that you're acutely aware of. But yeah, I need people, and I appreciate you bringing it up. Councilman Muscat was by this week and mentioned that we need more people. I appreciate that. Councilman Abdul Haq swung by as well. Great to see him as well. But yeah, it's an uphill battle, and we need people. And I'll stay on top of that and do the best I can to try to get the city cleaned up as much as possible. And obviously, money is very helpful in getting people in here.
Okay, but including businesses, businesses.
Oh,
This
for
is not
sure.
just residents. I'm
For
gonna be honest. A lot of businesses break that law, those ordinances more than anybody, and including. Look, I'm a believer in working with people or working with businesses, but including some of the big businesses that we have out here, the larger businesses, the larger parking lots. They are just not maintained. If I had to grade them on a grade from A to E, they'd be at a C- or D, if not less. And I'm being maybe polite right now. So
Okay.
including those businesses, please. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor. Did you want to chime in now?
So to answer Council Pro Tem Abdullah, the first concern you had with the overtime, obviously, all the concerns that you brought up, that's one of the reasons that we increased the overtime. And Director Dishram also requested additional people, also some overtime folks to clean up the city. And I agree with you. In the past, you see all the ordinance officers just sitting in that room, and pretty much, waste of resources. So that has stopped. I did meet with Director Dishram about the vision. We need to clean up our city. We need to, you can issue a warning ticket maybe once, but it's ridiculous when we have to keep issuing warning after warning. So we have met, we have a new vision. We do have to clean up our city, and we do have to have a better enforcement. And also the other thing is I'm in the process of putting a plan. I agree with you. I don't want to mention any names of a particular investor that actually has a plaza in other cities, and you can eat off the floor in other cities. But over here, it looks like, it looks like a pigsty in Dearborn Heights. So other cities would not allow that particular investor to have that filthy plaza. However, in our city, we're allowing it. So that does have to stop. We are working on a plan to hold even companies that own businesses here in the city and not doing anything. However, in other cities, they have street sweepers going into their plaza. And I have actually toured other businesses in another city that is owned by the same investor. And like I said, you can eat off the floor in the parking lot. So that will stop. And I am working on a plan. And I will share with Mr. Bishram. We're just trying to put all the biggest violators with getting pictures done and sending them to the particular investor or companies and say, hey, you have like so many days to clean it. Otherwise, we're gonna clean it and we're gonna bill you for it.
Good.
Or we should say we'll shut them down.
Well, you don't want to shut businesses down. We can just, all we have to do is we can enforce it better. We can cite. Give them a warning, a few days, and then we clean it ourselves and we bill it.
Next, we have Councilman Muscat.
Yes, thank you, Council Chair. Yes, I did stop by the ordinance department to put in some complaints myself. And unfortunately, these complaints are basically about the same pieces of property, time in and time out. I like Councilman Abdullah. We've seen this city actually get dirtier. And I don't know what the reason for it is. People just don't care. I look at some of these houses that I've known people that lived in them. They were immaculate in some of the nicest homes in a neighborhood. And now they're just, I can't understand how people live the way they live. And the director is short of people. There's no way he can keep up with this. But once we, as a council, try to figure out how we're going to do this, and we do get manpower, and we have to figure out what to do with union contracts as far as the 6 month goes on, because we train these people, they get proficient at their job in the 5th month, and in the 6th month, we have to let them go. Just doesn't make sense. Financially, it doesn't make sense. And we purchased these tablets a few years ago, and we've got to make sure that these ordinance people, when they go down the street, they just don't put the blinders on and say, well, I got to go to 26911 Havelock and forget about everything else. If I see these things, they should be able to see them too. These homes are just, they're horrible. I mean, horrible. And we need to do something about it as a council to help each department and especially the ordinance department if we want them to continue to do service for us. But another question is, to build this room, are you allowed to write tickets for automobiles left on the street because it's an ordinance during no parking time? I'd like to be able to have that, if it's not already approved, to get it approved, okay? It would make it easier on the police department too. I mean, Dearborn does it. And we do give tickets for ordinance violations on private property. I don't see why we can't give tickets to things that are done on the street also. That's an ordinance violation. We need to get that done. We need to get that done as soon as possible to help the entire city clean up. So, Mr. Disroom, are you guys able to do that or not?
Councilman Muscat, to the best of my knowledge, we are not. I had a brief conversation with Chief Myers regarding this very matter earlier in the week. When you start talking about adding stuff on to what we already do, I think that becomes an issue of manpower. And actually, I would have to reach out to Corporation Counsel Miyake and ask what the rules are regarding that, because to my knowledge, we're not allowed to address anything in the street. That would be a police matter. But that doesn't mean it's not insurmountable. You know, I'm sure there's a way around that if neighboring cities are doing it, but we're gonna need more people, money.
That I agree. That I agree 100%.
And I appreciate that. You understand. I think everybody understands that. It always boils down to money and manpower, right? So yeah, I mean, that's something we had talked about, that other cities are able to do it and other cities do it. So that's something we can certainly explore. And I need to get clarification if that's something.
Yeah, we have to keep our experienced people, regardless if they're part-time or not. We got to find a way to keep them.
And that is a whole separate animal, no pun intended. Talking about the union contracts, it's a source of frustration. I understand it more now, being in this position. Like you said, you get a guy, you're going to spend a month or two for sure training somebody, and then at the 6 month mark they have to go away. But that would be something that would have to be figured out during negotiations, which are coming up with the contract, as you're well aware. That's something the mayor and city council will have to work on your end.
The big killer is they not only get our training with our money, they go to other cities and get full-time jobs, and that city doesn't have to pay anything to train them.
Right. That is true. That is true. I'm glad you brought that
We're
up.
being foolish as a city.
that is a good point, and hopefully we can work our way through that, because again, I wanted to ask for a violation clerk because we have the 6-month rotating, and the woman that I have doing it right now, Sandy, is doing an outstanding job, and I'm going to lose her July 1st, and it's a lot harder now because we have all the Zoom meetings for court, so we have her working over here, and she's doing a great job, and she's a great asset, and I'm going to lose her July 1st. So if we could get a full-time position, that's what I was asking for, or figure out something contractually to mitigate some of these issues that we're having with that, as well as the ordinance officers, that would be great. But again, that's a contractual issue.
Thank you.
Abdul Haq. Councilman
Thank you.
Abdul Haq.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank you for following up on the charter revision. You have been a champion of the charter revision, you and the city council members. And I think the issue of part-timers can be resolved by a charter change. And I hope that as soon as possible, Mr. Mayatki can give us a plan how to revise the charter so we can have lots of part-timers, which saves money for the city. Now, as for, I used to call the ordinance department the Friends and Family Department. I hope under the new director, it's going to be professionals only. We went to the neighborhood association of the South End last month, and there was a couple people who got bit by dogs, pit bull dogs. I think we have registry at the clerk's office for license, and we know who owns those dogs. I hope that the director can send copy of the ordinance to all these owners so they know if they leave their dogs on the street and they bite people and cause harm to people, there will be consequences. Driving around the city, there is lots of blights, and I want the director to be as tough as possible on those people. After he gives them a notice, they should be taken, to court to clean up if that is allowed by the ordinance. And welcome to this position, and I wish you good luck.
Thank you, Councilman Abdul Haq. My intent is to be as tough as possible on people. We want to try to educate people first and give them the opportunity to clean up their property. You have to understand there's a process. We can't just march onto people's property, but we do have what I consider effective plans in place to address those issues, but we have to give them the opportunity to rectify it first. That's what's fair to the citizens and the businesses, as well as that's what the court wants. So we do have a process in place, and I plan on following through and doing my best to make sure that we're following these procedures and processes and trying our best to keep the city clean and get it cleaned up as well.
Madam Chair, I looked at your resume. It's very impressive, and I believe your salary of $75,000 is very justified for the experience which you have.
Thank you.
Next, I have Councilman Constant.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Director Dishroom. Thank you. I know you're going to do a great job. Any thought to helping with manpower issues and enforcement issues if ordinance became part of the police department? I don't know if that's possible union contract wise. I know years ago was part of the building department, and there was a thought that it needed to be independent, but that's just that's based on something that Councilman Musket mentioned to me. And then, yeah, in my subdivision, in fact, there's a woman who rents a house. Supposedly it's Section 8. She has 3 pit bulls. The pit bulls have attacked other dogs and other people repeatedly. And we felt in the past that there was no enforcement. So I think with the last incident, she's been to court once, and hopefully the situation will be gotten under control With that, thank you.
If I may respond to Councilman Constant, I got a couple things. That the getting this in the police department, I think is a great idea. I just don't know how feasible it is as far as space goes. There's a lot of logistics that are involved in that. I believe they've tried that in the past, but it hasn't worked out. It would be ideal for our officers if they were working out of there, because they would have immediate lien access and they could write tickets on the spot. That would be great. But I'm not sure how feasible that is. I could reach out to Chief Myers about that and get his thoughts on that. And regarding the dogs that you're referring to, we are acutely aware of that, those animals. From what I understand, they're trying to get the people that live there out of the home. In addition to that, we've had extra patrols, and I've made it a point to make sure that everybody that goes out that's in the animal control truck, as well as ordinance vehicles, make sure that they're patrolling the area. And I believe the police are on that as well. It has not fallen off our radar. We are watching them, and there are, I would just say, standing court orders regarding those dogs. And we're taking immediate action if they're found at large.
Great. Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you. And then next I have Mayor Bazey. Looks like he might have left us.
He said he had a meeting at 11.
Right. Okay, next, we'll move on. Next is the treasurer's office. This is the general government pension and cash flow treasurer Hicks Clayton.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start this with a brief opening statement, and then I'll go line item by line item. I do have some changes to my own budget, which is common since I submitted it in early January. So I want to, again, thank you for your time today. The City of Dearborn Heights Treasurer's Office is dedicated to providing quality experience provided by our professional, courteous, and friendly staff. Our number one objective of your Treasurer's Office is to safeguard public funds. In the last 5 months, our office has introduced a customer care program. This is a program that delivers service with commitment to and focus on customer service and following up with our customers' needs and concerns. Our mantra is meeting and exceeding your customer needs. During the pandemic, our office remained open, with the exception, of course, of the pause, which was the end of November going into December. However, our services did not change. We stress the importance of online payment options and other resources for making your payments, which will lead you to where I'm going and want to see us go. Many in Michigan and even nationwide face challenges with delays in United States mail service. Our office was not an exception to that. We also faced that challenge, and we worked with our federal elected officials to navigate through that challenge and try to resolve issues in a timely fashion. It should be noted that our tax bills were mailed on time, and we worked with every call that came into our office. We did not cease operations at any time. And we like to also say that we recognized and acknowledge the needs of our communities by offering several resources and referrals to wraparound services, partnering with Wayne Metro, Salvation Army, and other agencies, nonprofits. We did offer a town hall as well about a month ago, and we partnered with Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabree. And the town hall was home foreclosure prevention and tax payment options, with the goal of keeping our families in their homes during the pandemic at any time, because empty homes does not do anything for any of us, especially our families, but even our tax base. Recently, the City of Dearborn Heights received an A+ rating. As you know, we have our bonds sold, sold Wednesday. I lost track of days, it's Saturday, Wednesday. That rating was an A+ from Standard & Poor's. And that's a testimonial to our financial leadership team and the administration as a commitment to our city and our fiscal health. That bond rating was able to help us secure an excellent interest rate on the bond that sold on Wednesday.
Council Chair, can we get to the budget part?
Yes, please.
Oh, did you want to? Well, I'd like to finish.
This is a budget hearing. We're going to limit it to just the budget, please.
Well, the next part includes the forecast, so I can skip that if you don't want to talk about online payment options.
No, this is a budget hearing.
Okay, Well, we'll go right into that. Thank you. Starting with salary elect as set by the compensation commission, so it's unchanged. Salaries are set by which is union negotiation contracts. It's already set, unchanged. Retire prior years stays the same. Part-time, I'd like to reduce by $2,730. So we're going to reduce that amount. That is the training time that I spend with John. We had agreed a full 1 year cycle for training for me. And therefore this includes a year and it should only be 6 months. So that's why I'm asking for that reduction of $2,730 to that line item. Moving on, overtime is the same or unchanged as well. Well, yep, let me move down. Fringe benefits, we do not control. Supplies, I'd like to reduce that down to $10,000, a savings of $5,000. Again, I look at the 3-year past actual expenditures and forecasting moving forward based on what the office's needs are. So therefore, I think 15,000 is too high. I'd like to reduce that to 10, down to 10. Dues membership should be 1,000. We reduced that a little bit. So you see that at 1,000, the savings there of $250. Contractual services should remain the same. That's an unchanged item. Mileage is reduced a little bit because we are in a pandemic and there's not as much traveling. Plus, I do not claim mileage as your treasurer going on bank runs and such. Maintenance equipment is 800. That is the same. And going down to travel education, I'd like that at 2,500 because I do believe in education, continuing education, our training, including for our staff members. As a member of the Michigan Municipal Treasurers Association and the Government Finance Officers of America, we have a lot of training opportunities, professional development for our staff. That's why I like to see that at 2,500. The last item is capital outlay. Capital outlay, currently we put in there 1,000. I'd like to change that to an increase of 1,000. So that's going to be 2,000 on that line item. And that is because we have a need for scanners for scanning checks. When our receipt printers were switched out in November because of the current ones we had were obsolete, well, the ones then were obsolete, they no longer do scanning capabilities with the new ones. That is, in our opinion and our daily operation, ineffective because we're not having scanned copies of checks available to us. And it does come up often that we need to refer back to those items as backup. And therefore, I end my balance for my budget, my proposed budget at $531,310. That's a reduction of $1,216. And I would like, when we have time, to talk about the online payment platform. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's not for the budget hearing, unfortunately. Councilman Abdullah?
Treasurer, we had, on average, it's been between $8,000 to $12,000 for part-time. And that's been going back all the way back to 2018. But then at this particular time, you have an increase of almost 50%, 50% to 17,250. Just briefly, why is there such a drastic increase versus going all the way back to 2018?
Okay, so the reduction, well, remember, I just submitted a reduction to you of $2,730. Part of that is the, let's understand our staffing structure here in the treasurer's office. We have 5 full-time employees. We have a part-timer that comes in during peak seasons, like summer tax rolls and when the winter tax rolls are in, where we're collecting. So you have a part-timer there. And then we also added John, Mr. Riley, back into our part-time budget.
So that applies to John then primarily.
And we spend time together typically every Friday, and that's 3 hours. And if you add that up and it's $35 an hour, that's where you see a bump. But like I said, respectfully, Councilman, I want that reduced because I've already used up 6 months of that training time.
Okay.
So we only need 6 more months of that training time in theory.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilman Constant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's my understanding that Mr. Riley is not coming in anymore, that he's going to work till the end of May and that's it. Will there be somebody else that will be using that training budget?
I have not been made aware of that.
Budget?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Councilman Constant. Mr. Riley has not shared that with me. What he is doing is the general government pension and the Act 345 pension boards. those boards right now have a committee that yesterday interviewed administrators. So maybe that, I'm not sure if that's what you're thinking of, is that there's going to be an administrator hired and in place by June for those two pension boards administrations. So we didn't talk anything about training at all, not that I'm aware of.
And then for salaries, the salaries are going from 171 to 219, 884. I thought I heard you say that there was a reduction in salaries. Is that
No,
number
there's
being
no,
adjusted?
no, oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. No, Councilman, there's no reduction in salaries. If anything, our staff deserves more money. They have had not significant increases, as you are aware, in recent years. That is contractual, and that union negotiation is opening up. What that is going to include is that our deputy director did get, like all of the deputy directors, received a 3% rate increase. Personally, I think a little bit more would be good, but that is what it is. And that is what you see there.
Thank you.
Next, we have Councilman Abdul Haq.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple questions. I did work, as you know, for 4 months at the Treasury Department. And I like to thank the ladies who work there because really they are a terrific team. They work there hard to make sure that every penny is counted for and everything is in order. But sometimes during the high seasons, they have hard time catching up because there isn't enough, in my opinion, people working inside that office. So I would like first to acknowledge the deputy, Colleen Garcia. I believe her salary should be in the $61,000 because I believe she deserves it. And she's done marvelous job in that office and she's keeping everything really in place. Without her, that office will be in trouble. And I would like to increase the capital outlay because there are lots of things unforeseen. And I would like to increase that to $10,000 instead.
Okay, Councilman Abdul Haq, this is not the meeting. We do the reductions or increases. That's budget wrap up that's on the 14th. I just don't want you to waste your time.
No,
But
okay,
keep those numbers. Those are good numbers.
Yes.
But yeah, that's where we make the actual changes is on May 14th and during our budget wrap up.
Okay. And, you know, I would recommend that we have somebody to help the treasurer in training for a full cycle. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, looks like it. Next, we will go on to the fire department with Chief Brogan.
I think John Riley has his hand up, Madam Chair.
Okay, John Riley. He might want to chime in on something that was said.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, City Council. It's been a while since I've been before you. I just would like to follow up because you listed on this is the general government pension. And so I come before you not as the administrator of the general government pension, but as a trustee appointed by the City Council. Since my retirement as the treasurer, the general government pension has not had a pension administrator. I have been trying to do some of those duties unpaid, along with the assistance of the deputy treasurer and the recording secretary, Lynn Cinia, to kind of keep things afloat. I also made the decision as Mr. Council.
Can't hear him. He got muted.
He's muted.
Fire. And so we thought it would be a good time for us to hire an individual. This is a part-time position, same as I was, to administrate both the police and fire and the general government system. And we actually had an interview committee with the two panels that met yesterday and found a very good candidate. So if we could look, I guess, Councilman Muscat, we want to get to the budget. If you look under Department 955, that's towards the back. I don't have the budget page doesn't show me a page number.
45.
Okay, so we currently have in there for salaries, and that salaries line item would need to be moved to part-time and increased to the $23,500 so that we can, so this administrator who will be administrating both pensions will be able to have some pay salary in this account. The other part will be through Act 345, and I'm scheduling a meeting with Mariana and Budri to speak about that next week. Plus, we have a 345 special meeting with the City Council next Thursday. And the only other item on that budget then is if we remove the salaries and add in the part-time of 23,500, we'd have to increase the fringe benefit, which would really just be the FICA tax. And I think if we took that up to $1,850, so basically that department's increase would be $7,500 in total. And luckily, we did find a very good, experienced pension administrator candidate, and it was not easy to do. And so we really would like to know that it's okay to move forward on bringing them aboard. And that's really all that I have.
Okay. Did anybody have questions for John Riley in regards to what he just presented? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Riley.
Thank you.
Okay, next we will move on to the fire department with Chief Brogan.
Hello, Council, and hello, Mayor. Yeah, a lot of our numbers have stayed the same. If you make your way down, salaries, the first real change you see, well, I should probably talk about overtime. Overtime is at $400,000. We're well beyond that this year, and that's there are several factors, but COVID was the biggest one. COVID, not only did we have people that were off duty from being exposed, but then we had more. We had to put another squad in service. And if you've gone to the Dearborn Vaccine Center, you've seen that we're staffing that. And so that's all been, out of our overtime budget. Now that money is being reimbursed. And so we're not, I mean, we've spent a lot more than the $400,000 that was budgeted last year, but the numbers are going to be way off. So I just have $400,000 budgeted. If it's going to be more than that, it's probably going to be covered, by COVID related expenses. Although, there's no guarantee. That's why we stuck with a $400,000 number. Clothing, a lot of the stuff is contractual. Holiday pay, fringe benefits. Our supplies have stayed the same. Medical supplies has stayed the same, although that's in the same boat. We went over this year, again, because of COVID, all the protective gear we have to get. And again, that's been covered by federal funding. Utilities is the same. Dues and membership has gone up a little bit. That's mostly our Western Wayne County Mutual Aid Association dues. That's we're required to pay as being part of that group. That's for how very necessary expense. And they changed the per capita. It was at we only paid $8,000 for many years. They upped it last year, and we didn't reflect that in our budget enough. It's a $3,000 base pay, and then 16 cents per capita. So that's how all the members of Western Wayne pay into this group. So that's the change there. Contractual services did go up quite a bit. Now that's, it's something, there's a new service tax. It's not new, it started previous year, but it's called Quality Assurance Assessment Program. They call it QAAP, Q-A-A-P. It's a service tax applied from the state, but they've used this tax to be in compliance to increase the amount of federal funding that we can collect with our Medicare patients. So I know it's kind of, we get that money back through our EMS runs, but before it was being taken, because when they first made this change, it wasn't budgeted for. And so we were funding it from our EMS runs, but that's not really the account line it should be in. Contractual services is a better place for it. Even though, so we were paying this last year, it's almost a wash, but we do come out on the plus side with the money that we're collecting, with the extra money that we're collecting from Medicaid patients by paying this tax. But it's not an option. Any ambulance providers in the state are have to pay this fee. So that's almost $15,000 of the $17,000 increase. So all right, tuition and books have stayed the same. Motor fuel the same. Repair and maintenance of equipment is the same. Now, we have a line for AFG, for a fire AFG grant. And what we use that for is for matching funds. If we get a grant, we have written a grant for an engine. We could certainly use another engine right now. But if we happen to get one, then we'll come back to get the matching funds. We don't need to budget for it right now. So I don't know if we want to answer questions as we go, Council Chair. I see.
No, the way we're doing it,
Okay.
Chief, is we're presenting the entire budget and then they
Okay.
ask the questions when you're
Very
done.
good. Okay. Our training has stayed the same. Capital outlay, I do have a sheet, actually. The sheet is in my other office. I had to change our internet connection, got bad up in my office, so I had to come back to the training room. No, sorry, we're getting a run overhead. I have to wait for this to finish. Okay, I don't know if you can hear there or not, but I can. So, all right. The biggest thing that we're asking for is we initially were asking for 2 squads, but we're asking to replace 1 squad. That would probably be best if we finance it because it is a big purchase, and we can't really wait to replace. The one that we're replacing is a 2007 International, and it's got well over, I think it's got 218,000 miles on it, and it's just it's getting very expensive to keep in service, and even when it's running, it's really it's a very rough riding truck. And so we're looking to get that one replaced. And so we budgeted $50,000 for this year, and then we finance it over the next 4 to 5 years, depending on the final price that we get. There was a few other small things, but that's the biggest ticket item. Our payment for the engine that we purchased already this year that went out to bid and we accepted, we won't take delivery of until this next budget year. And that we have budgeted $125,000 for. Okay, and you know, we did make a few changes on that to come up with our final capital outlay number, but that was something that we could all live with. Pretty much everything else is the same. I'm not sure what questions we have.
Does that conclude your presentation?
Yeah, I'm all wrapped up. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that part. Here we have Councilman Muscat. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Council Chair. Good afternoon, Chief. I see, I understand that you want a new squad. And as we go through the reports that we get every month and see what we spend, we do spend a lot of money on maintenance for those vehicles. So having a newer one would obviously save us some repair costs. Do we get any revenue from the older equipment once we get new equipment?
If possible, we do. So sometimes some of the squads like this one, we may be able to get something for they'll even sell just the box. But if we get any money for that, we either return it to the general fund or use it towards the price of the vehicle.
Okay, thank you very kindly, sir.
Next, we have Councilman Abdullah.
Chief, just a simple statement. I appreciate you guys and gals for putting your lives on the line for all of us, and just appreciate all the work you do. God bless. That's it.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you.
Next, we have Councilman Abdul Haq.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, thank you, Chief, you and your department. You're doing a great job and great service for our city. My question is the capital outlay. You had last year 773,000. You used up to date 51,000. And now you're suggesting 251,000. Why is the big difference?
So in the budget for the current budget that we're in, we had $600,000 set aside to purchase the fire truck that we've gone out to bid for, that we've accepted. but we won't take delivery of it until next year. So that $600,000 is actually going to be returned to the general fund.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
Well,
This time that concludes the budget presentation. Right now, we will open it up to comments from the public. Limit is 2 minutes. You need to state your name, street, and city. Seeing no hands at this point, that concludes, oh, Councilman Baydoun, are you commenting as a resident?
As a resident, thank you so much. I want to say good job to everybody that presented today. Thank you to our council chair for running a smooth, great meeting. And thank you to the mayor's office for putting this presentation or putting this budget together with the assistance of the ones that helped assist in this. Also, I believe I just want to also kind of put this out there. I believe the fire department is working in collaboration with the Amity Foundation for the May 7th Ramadan 5K. I know that Chief Grogan and his team will actually be in assistance with us there on that day. If anybody would like to join, it's going to be at Crestwood under the lights on Friday, May 7th. I know this is not the place to probably talk about it, but since we won't be in a meeting till then, I want everybody to know that they can attend, from the mayor's office to all of council, to our clerk's office, to our directors. So that's one reason why I'm bringing this up here. I know that the fire department has also made you a great donation for that as well. So thank you for that.
I second that, Mo.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got Nancy Breyer here.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now.
Yes, you are.
All right. We did hear referencing to our meeting that happened in March, the South Dearborn Heights Civic Association. Mayor Bazey made a great presentation, and we did hear all about those pit bulls multiple times from 5 different people. And he is taking care of that, as is the ordinance department. And I'm so thankful for that to be happening. And then we also heard from our lovely fire chief last month, and he did a great presentation with safety features. So stay tuned for further events at our location. Thank you. All done.
Okay,
Council
Chair,
Chair.
are you there? Okay, I'll
muted.
take over just in case until she comes.
Nope,
oh,
I'm
she is.
here. I'm sorry. DTE was at my door. There's an issue with the electrical, so we may want to hurry this up on my poll. So is there any further comment? I'm sorry, I apologize. Is there any further comment? Okay,
Madam
that
Chair.
concludes. Do you have public comment?
No, I just want to thank the team who worked on the budget. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. At this time, that concludes our budget session for Friday, April 30th, 2021. Our next one will be next Friday, which is May 7th, and it will begin at 10 a.m.